You brought a lawsuit against your doctor claiming that he was careless, causing you significant harm and injury. And now, during the lawsuit process, I pick up the phone to call you to tell you that the defense made a settlement offer. What is the most important question you need to ask me when I tell you that the defense has made a settlement offer? You want to know the answer? Come join me for a moment as I share with you some terrific information. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. The most important question that you need to ask me is, how much money are you going to receive after the attorney's expenses and after the attorney's fee? Now, that's a critical question. Why? Because that tells you right then and there how much money you're going to walk away with. The answer to that question is going to tell you exactly how much money you are going to get in your hand after the attorney's expenses and after the attorney's fees. Now, why would you ever consider settling your case? Well, there are a couple of reasons why you might consider it. And you should know that here in New York, almost all of these malpractice cases involve jury trials. Now, what does that mean? It means you are relying on 6 people in the community who don't know you, who don't know anything about you, to now begin learning everything that happened to you. And at the same time, they begin learning everything about the doctor. And ultimately, they will have to make a decision about whether or not you are slightly more likely right than wrong that what you are claiming is true. Here's a sad fact, and here's a sad statistic about these medical malpractice cases. The majority of these cases that come through the litigation process here in New York are settled prior to trial. Now, that's not the sad part that I'm talking about. The sad statistic that I am talking about is of those cases that ultimately do go to trial, and now a jury reaches a verdict, the majority of those cases are actually won by the doctor and the hospital. That is a startling statistic. So now, when you're faced with the possibility of going to trial, now the defense has said throughout the course of your litigation, during 2 or 3 years worth of hard-fought litigation, they refuse to negotiate. They refuse to accept any responsibility. They refuse to acknowledge that their doctor did anything wrong. Well, that means that you have to go to trial. That means you need to get a verdict from a jury to determine whether or not you are, in fact, slightly more likely right than wrong that what you are claiming is true. And that, in fact, the doctor was careless, and his carelessness was a cause of your injury. So now you are relying on 6 members of the community to reach a verdict in your favor, and then the problem is, you don't know what a jury is ultimately going to do. Neither does the defense. But you have a significant risk. Why? Because now you have spent 2 or 3 years of your life prosecuting this case, litigating this case, and now you don't even know if a jury is ultimately going to agree with you. And if they do agree with you, you don't know how much money you're going to receive as compensation for all of your harms and losses and damages. It might be a very small amount, it might be a significantly huge amount, or it could be somewhere in between. And now if the jury does come back with a significant amount of money, you can be sure that the defense is going to do everything possible to throw that verdict out. And if that doesn't work, then they're going to appeal it to the higher court to see if they can now throw that verdict out. By settling your case, assuming, of course, you've got a significant and substantial offer, that your attorney agrees that you should settle the case, now you are avoiding the risk of having to go to trial and wind up with a verdict that you don't know what the outcome is going to be. So let's get back to the answer that I talked about a moment ago. You need to find out how much money you are going to receive in your pocket if you are to settle based upon the defense's current offer. You have to ask your attorney, okay, what are your expenses up till today? And what is your fee up till today? Now, based upon that information, you'll have a clear understanding of whether or not you should settle this case. Now, another thing that comes up, another question that often arises is, will I have to pay taxes on this settlement? Now, you should know something very important. If this medical malpractice case involves claims for pain and suffering, now that settlement is not going to be taxable. Why? Because that is not income. You did not work to generate that money, and as a result of that, the government does not tax you on that amount of money. So that is not taxable. But there are certain types of damages that you will be taxed upon, and I'm not going into that in this particular video, but you have to ask your attorney the question, how much you ultimately going to walk away with. Now, I will have to tell you one more thing. You may have a lien against the amount of money you were able to recover. Let's say you were receiving Medicaid benefits or even Medicare benefits. In that instance, your attorney will then have to negotiate with Medicare or Medicaid to see how much money has to be repaid to them based upon the benefits that you actually received because of the wrongdoing that occurred. In that instance, that will reduce the amount of money that's going to be available to you after you settle this case. And that's going to occur whether you settle it or go to a verdict. So keep that in mind as you go through and answer the question, how much money are you going to walk away with in your pocket if the defense comes back with a settlement offer, and now it's time to really think about the answer to that question. So why do I raise this issue with you? I raise it with you because this happens in almost every single case. Now, ultimately, the defense makes an offer, and guess what? Now we have to discuss the offer. And in order to make an educated decision about whether or not this settlement offer is appropriate for you, you need to know how much you're actually going to walk away with. You know, I do recognize you have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if you have not yet started a lawsuit, but are thinking about doing so and have questions that need to be answered, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. You know, I answer questions like yours every single day, and I'd love to talk to you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at oginski-law.com. Well, that's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day.